Before diving with a cylinder of enriched air nitrox, you analyze it to confirm the oxygen percentage. You need to know this to set your enriched air dive computer, and you need to be sure of what it is. Even though the blender analyzes the fill, you must personally verify the oxygen analysis of the cylinder. Do not dive with a cylinder of enriched air if you have not personally verified its contents. There are no exceptions. Usually, you do the analysis, but sometimes another qualified person does it while you watch to personally verify the oxygen content on the oxygen analyzer. Decompression sickness, DCS, or drowning become very real risks if an enriched air blend differs from what you believe it is. That's why you personally confirm the analysis, verify the cylinder markings, and make sure it wasn't accidentally confused with another tank. Don't accept the analysis of another individual. It's your safety at stake, and an error will affect you. This is why the dive community standard is that it's your responsibility to know what blend you're diving by personally confirming it. Errors are rare, but they have happened. Cylinders have been confused, mismarked, or improperly refilled, and it was the diver's personal analysis that caught the error. This is why your name is on an enriched air cylinder you will use. If there's ever any question about an enriched air cylinder's contents, or whether cylinders may have been confused, reanalyze it. It's a good practice to reanalyze just before the dive in any case. In most situations, you analyze the oxygen in your enriched air cylinder yourself. Sometimes another person does it while you watch. Either way, you need to know how to use an oxygen analyzer. Popular oxygen analyzers come in different sizes and types. Whatever model you choose, for analyzing enriched air, you need one that reads to 0.1%. Different analyzers may differ somewhat in how you use them, but all generally follow the same steps. Start by turning the analyzer on and calibrating it. The simplest method is to calibrate for air. The preferred method is to flow air from a Scuba cylinder slowly across the analyzer's sensor from a flow meter or restrictor. Turn the calibration knob until the analyzer reads 20.8% to 21% as specified by the manufacturer. Next, switch to your enriched air cylinder. When opening the valve on an enriched air cylinder, open the valve slowly. This reduces the heat associated with rapid pressurization, helping minimize oxygen fire concerns. Flow the enriched air into the analyzer at the same rate you used for calibration. A higher or lower rate may make your analysis inaccurate. Allow any air in the valve, lines, and flow device to clear and wait for the reading to stabilize. The standard of practice for enriched air is plus or minus 1%. Minor variations, less than 1%, between the blender's analysis and yours are normal. But confirm a substantial variation with another analyzer. Most enriched air computers use 1% increments. Round up or down to the closest whole percent. That is, for example, round 31.2% to 31% and 31.8% to 32%, unless the computer manufacturer makes a different recommendation. A few pointers will help you get an accurate analysis. Enriched air partial pressure blended in your cylinder may need 30 minutes to an hour to mix evenly before analyzing. Rolling the cylinder back and forth may speed this process. Store your analyzer in a cool, dry place and check it periodically against other analyzers, especially if you have some question about accuracy. Never blow into the sensor because moisture in your breath hurts sensor accuracy in life. Replace the sensor if it performs outside the tolerance levels specified by the manufacturer and at intervals specified by the manufacturer. After analysis, compare what you got with the percent noted on the cylinder contents tag or sticker. There are different versions of content stickers and tags, but at a minimum, they list analyzed oxygen content, the fill date, the maximum depth to which the blend can be used, and the diver's name. If your cylinder has a reusable tag, be sure that the serial number on the tag matches the serial number on the cylinder. After your dive, leave the sticker or tag in place. The blender will remove it when refilling. Some divers write empty on the sticker or tag so that the cylinder isn't mistaken for a full one. The last step is signing the enriched air fill station's fill log, which may also be a statement of understanding. At a minimum, the fill log lists the cylinder's serial number, the date, the blender's analysis, the maximum depth for the blend, and the diver's name and signature. It may record other information depending upon the needs of the operation. If you get the cylinder at the dive site, the dive operation will bring a fill log to the location. Today, the vast majority of divers use dive computers. There are 4 guidelines to apply when you're using an enriched air dive computer. First, know the enriched air blend's maximum depth and stay shallower by watching the depth display. Remember, plan your dive and dive your plan. Use the maximum depth warning as a secondary alert. Second, stay well within your computer's no-stop and oxygen exposure limits. If you begin to near a limit, ascend until your computer displays a longer limit. Stay that shallow or shallower for the rest of the dive. Third, every diver needs an individual enriched air dive computer set for the blend the diver is using. Variations in depths and blends can result in different no-stop times and oxygen exposure, so sharing isn't appropriate. As you would when diving air, stay within the limits of whichever buddy's computer gives the most conservative readings. Fourth, whether diving with air or enriched air, make safety stops and follow conservative diving practices. Let's look at setting your dive computer for your enriched air blend in more detail. How you do this varies from model to model, but with most, you enter a set mode by pressing a button or electrical contacts. Typically, you're in the set mode when the oxygen percentage blinks, indicating it's waiting for you to change it. Next, you scroll the percentage by holding a button or touching contacts, usually in 1% increments. Then lock in the desired number by holding or pressing another button or contacts. Remember to round to the closest 1% from your analysis. You'll do this before each dive during the course with your instructor at hand to help. After you've done it a couple of times, it's second nature. After a dive, most enriched air compatible computers clear their settings and require you to reset them before you dive again. If you forget, most go into some kind of error mode, such as defaulting to a worst-case impossible mix of 79% nitrogen, 50%, or even 100% oxygen, which causes the computer to severely limit your no-stop time, depth, and allowable oxygen exposure. It's often obvious that you forgot to set the computer, and you can surface, set it, and continue the dive. But if you don't surface immediately, after diving with a computer you forgot to set, you'll have to wait for the computer to clear, usually 12 hours, before diving with it again. The exception, by the way, is that if set for air, most models stay set for air, dive after dive, until you change it. The error mode occurs only if you had set it for something other than air and failed to set the blend for the next dive. See the manufacturer's literature for specifics about what your dive computer does if you forget to set the blend. Dive computer failures are very rare. Nonetheless, if it happens during a dive, immediately ascend, make a safety stop at 5 meters 15 feet for 3 minutes or longer, and end the dive. It's recommended that you back up your enriched air dive computer by writing down your enriched air blends, maximum depth, bottom times, and surface intervals. If your computer fails, then one option is to use tables to continue diving. Another option is wear a second, backup enriched air computer so you can continue diving if your primary one conks out. If you don't have any type of backup, then don't dive for at least 12 hours or longer if specified by the manufacturer before resuming with a working dive computer. Follow the accepted guidelines for diving with enriched air nitrox, and it's very unlikely that you'll have to assist a diver with oxygen toxicity. However, if a diver convulses for any reason, handle the emergency as you would for any unresponsive diver underwater. If the diver has the mouthpiece in place, hold it there, but don't waste time trying to replace it if not. Immediately surface the diver, establish ample positive buoyancy for yourself and the victim, and check for breathing. Call for assistance and begin in-water rescue breaths if the victim isn't breathing. Get the diver to the boat or shore and out of the water as quickly as possible without jeopardizing your own safety. Once out of the water, check for a heartbeat and breathing and begin or continue rescue breaths and CPR as needed. Activate local emergency medical services. If the diver is breathing, begin first aid for DCI as a precaution. Even if the diver appears fully recovered, the patient should be examined by a physician. Some experts recommend that if the diver's mouthpiece is in, hold it in place and wait for the convulsion to subside, then take the diver to the surface. The concern is that a convulsing diver may not breathe regularly, but your primary concern is getting the victim to the surface to prevent drowning and to let you begin first aid and get help. Recommendations for handling an underwater convulsion may change, so stay informed and follow the current recommendations. There's no difference in how you treat a diver suspected of having decompression illness following an enriched air dive versus a regular air dive. Administer oxygen and first aid as necessary. Get the diver into the care of local EMS and contact the Divers Alert Network office that serves your area. When possible, tell emergency personnel the dive profile, including depth, time, and whether the diver was using a dive computer or tables, and if using enriched air, what the blend was. If you run out of emergency oxygen before you can get a responsive patient into emergency medical care, have the patient breathe any enriched air available. While not as beneficial as 100% oxygen, enriched air has more oxygen than regular air and may help. You can learn more about handling emergencies by completing the Emergency First Response Primary Care CPR and Secondary Care First Aid courses and the PADI Rescue Diver and Emergency Oxygen Provider courses. When you successfully finish this course, you'll have added a useful new skill to your diving repertoire. Enriched air combined with your dive computer gives you the maximum possible no-stop dive times, and that means more time doing whatever it is you love doing most underwater. Here's to your having more fun and new adventures as a PADI Enriched Air diver.